Our family has an interesting story. My bio mother's and bio father's sides have two marriages between the families. My bio mom, Linda, and bio dad, Chris, met at my uncle's and aunt's engagement dinner when both were 16. Linda and Chris are still complete wrecks. My bio dad was the troubled one of the family who would have problems with school or work, and my bio mom has had issues since she was 14. When they met and started a relationship, both sides of the family tried to break them up. They even sent them to different countries, but they stole $50K US from their families, managed to come together, and ran away when they were 19. They got married in a third world country, and they had me, 25 male, and my twin brother when they were 21. They thought we were deadweights, so they left us in the hospital and went to another country. Luckily, they checked into the hospital with their passports. Hence, the hospital reached out to the embassy, found my grandparents, and brought us back home. We were raised by our uncle, 55, and aunt, 54. We called them mom and dad. My parents were charged with child abandonment, but after 10 years of being MIA, the charges were dropped, and our families also didn't try to look for them. 2 years ago, they showed up at my dad's parents' house with a completely renovated look. It turns out they finished their education, had stable jobs in the country, started to get mental health treatments, and were sober for 9 years, and they've basically put themselves together. For the first 6 months, they only saw their parents in public places, and then they were accepted into the house. A year later, they met with us when we were 24. My twin brother and I started to have a relationship with them. We're cordial right now. Last week, our abandonment topic was opened, and Linda said it was the most challenging choice they've made. I started to laugh uncontrollably after that, and when they asked, I told them they had multiple options to come back, and they didn't, and our families were right not to trust them, and they would always have eyes on them, and they should accept this at this stage. Linda started to cry, and they left shortly after. All of the family except my brother think I'm being too cruel and should apologize, but I think they had to hear the unfiltered truth. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Hard decision? They birthed you and left. They had no intention of finding you again. Oh, and you're too cruel? Okay, and? She's a grown woman twice your age and was part of the pair that abandoned you at the hospital for freedom of movement. Now that they have their life together, they want cake and to eat it too. They abandoned you in a foreign country. Jesus, the fact that they waited so long to come forward shows that they're full of crap about it being a hard choice. I 100% agree. OP is mad that his parents left their children in a foreign hospital with no connections or safety plan instead of leaving them with a trusted family member. Who knows what could have happened to OP and his twin if the hospital couldn't find their family. I also find it weird that they've been sober for 9 years and are choosing now to contact family and try to build a bond. Dude, right? Who abandons newborns in a foreign country hospital? Like, full stop. Don't even need the rest of this story. Those two fully intended on those kids never being found and probably stayed away as long as they did because they were with the family. Thank goodness for the health providers at that hospital. OP and brother would probably have been lost forever otherwise. OP, I'm impressed that you're willing to be cordial with them. You don't owe them anything, and your mother needed to hear what you said and felt. They freaking stole $50K, and the family even lets them in their presence without maybe using wallet chains and money belts. As for the idea, they actually give a crap about anyone except themselves. Your family is delusional. You and your brother are the only ones who realize precisely what these people are. One does not get to abandon their kids at literal infancy and then show up years later being all like, I've turned my life around, and expect no consequences. I'm currently planning a wedding. My fiance's family is from Jamaica. She still has family there, so we'll be getting married there. It's going to be an all-inclusive resort that I'm excited about and are aware not everyone can afford. We've invited about 40 people from our country, most of who have already RSVP'd yes. My little brother, I'll call Jake, makes decent money but is very frugal. He thinks it's ridiculous that we're getting married there when both of us are from here. I admit it's about half because of her family and half because it just really sounds fun. Not everyone can afford it, and I'm totally cool if people can't make the trip or don't want to spend it. I want a small wedding anyway. Jake told me yesterday he's not going because he doesn't want to pay for the flight, hotel, etc. I understood and just said, okay. He then asked, so that's it? You don't care if your only brother won't go? You still just won't have a wedding where you guys are from? I was just like, yeah, that's fine. I'll send pics. To me, that was that. But now his wife, my sister-in-law, is on my case about it, saying I should have tried to convince him or helped pay for it. I technically could afford to, but it's just not a huge priority to have as many people there as possible. Am I the idiot? OMG, haha. He was totally hoping you'd foot the bill for his trip. Just send pics as promised, and don't give it another thought. Have a great time in Jamaica. Congratulations. Not the idiot. Oh, and it sounds like sister-in-law was really hoping for the free vacation too. Yep, that's exactly the vibe I got. I have some Moochie family myself, and that is a tactic they love. We can call it, why don't they try harder? Even if the end goal is not to get a 100% free trip, the goal is to try to put you in a position so they can negotiate. The tactic places the onus on you to try to give concessions so they can do you the favor of attending. I mean, good for you business guys. You're probably great at dealing with suppliers and contractors, but that crap is not supposed to be used against family or friends. OP, send pictures with him photoshopped into them and say, it's like you were there with us. It's your brother's choice to attend your wedding or not. No one is forcing him either way. You invited. He doesn't want to spend the money. It's not your obligation to pay for his trip. You're not upset he won't come. You've done nothing wrong. You were very nice in how you handled it. He doesn't get to pressure you into having a wedding where he wants. It's not his day. And honestly, the wedding will go on with or without him. I, 26 male, and my wife, 25, have been married for just under 2 years. We've been together for over 5 years, and we have an infant daughter together. I started to see a change in our relationship about a month after our daughter was born when I returned to work. She became increasingly distant from me and more withdrawn. Any affection stopped, and I just felt like I was worthless to her. At the same time, she was spending an increasing amount of time on her maternity leave gaming with a group of online friends that she'd known for a few years, most of which are male. I've never had a problem with this, as I know the people in this group, but I felt like this group of friends was being put first before me. And at the same time, there was one person in particular from the group that she was talking to a lot of the time, which I felt uncomfortable about. When I confronted her the first time about how I felt, she had admitted she had lost feelings for me after our daughter was born, but that she wanted to make things work, that nothing was going on with anyone from this group, and that I should trust her. However, fast forward to a couple of weeks ago, I felt like things had not been improving. At this point, I checked her messages and found that she was having an emotional affair with someone from the group. I confronted her about this, and she admitted to it. She said she had lost feelings for me, as she said before, but that she then gained feelings for this other person and let it get out of control. She said she wanted to fix our relationship, as she was worried that she would lose me and everything we've worked for, and that she was sorry for doing this to me. I'm not convinced that she's telling the truth, but I am willing to try and rebuild our relationship for our daughter's sake, and I still love her. However, I've told her that the only way I'll be able to rebuild any form of trust with her is to stop all contact with this group of friends indefinitely and not speak to them again. She thinks I'm not being fair about this. So tell me, am I the idiot for asking her to do this for me? You're not the idiot, but She's staying with you because you're security. Don't let her use you like that, mate. Yep, at this point, the wife only wants OP for what he can provide, and as a backup, in case things don't work out with the online dude. Just remember, actions speak louder than words. If you don't see an improvement, a real show that she's trying, then file for divorce. Just blindside her. She'll then realize this is no joke. To be honest, I read these and think that this is pure BS when people say they'll delete apps and stop talking to affair partners. It's over, dude. Even if she cuts contact, she'll make a connection with someone else down the line. She even reiterated that she lost attraction. Right now, she's feeding you a line because she wants to keep the family dynamic together for the child's sake. You can try to salvage the relationship if you wish to, but it's going to be a process that might be outside your comfort level. I, female 19, am the oldest of 4. My parents had me early in their marriage and then waited 6 years before having many kids again. I've been helping with my siblings for as long as I can remember. I love them very much, and I know our folks are working hard to provide for us. This summer was the first time I plan to spend time away from my family, alone, for an extended period, other than one school trip in middle school and one in high school. My boyfriend and I plan to spend 9 days hiking backcountry on Crown land. That's publicly owned land that isn't a national park or anything. It's just wilderness. I asked for my parents' permission back in June when we started planning the trip. They said yes and would arrange for childcare that week. I had a big countdown calendar on my bedroom door with the leave date circled in red. I crossed out every day as it got closer. My siblings all knew I was going away. My boyfriend picked me up on Saturday at 4 a.m. so we could make the place by 9 a.m. My parents didn't notice I was gone until about noon, when they were going shopping and wanted to wake my lazy butt up to watch the kids. By that time, we were already in a cellular dead zone. When we came out to civilization again, I had dozens of texts and missed calls from Saturday, a few on Sunday, then they tapered off. I called home last Sunday on my way home after reading a few messages. My parents were upset that I left without telling them goodbye, and more upset when they remembered that I would be gone until last Sunday. They spaced and forgot to arrange for childcare. My oldest brother's almost a teen, but he isn't really ready to be left alone and is in charge of getting the littles to their summer camps and stuff. My parents are mad at me for leaving them in the lurch. They said I was responsible for making them scramble for childcare help. I literally gave them 2 months of notice and asked permission. It was pretty much all I talked about for the 2 weeks before I left. I feel bad that they had to do that, but I think I did my part, and I didn't sneak out in the middle of the night. We left at that time because it was a long drive. Not the idiot. It isn't you who dropped the ball. It's your parents. They're the ones that carry the responsibility for their children, not you. This is clear manipulation on their part to make you feel guilty, so you'll be easier to manipulate in the future. I'd be interested to hear your college plans and future plans and whether they'll try to get you to continue raising their other kids. They had no intention of finding childcare, or they would have gotten on it at some point. To phrase it as they spaced is incorrect, because spacing out implies a temporary lapse. They wanted the OP to keep reminding them so they could pretend to try and find someone and then say, "Whoopsie daisy, can't find anyone," and demand that she cancel her trip at the last minute. Too bad she left at 4 a.m. Also, OP is an adult. She doesn't have to ask permission. All she has to do is let them know she has plans. Watching her siblings sounds like a long-established pattern that started before she was able to say no. OP's being well and truly exploited if she can't even go on vacation without her parents exploding on her and accusing her of sneaking off in the middle of the night. How absurd this whole situation is. Is it just me, or did anyone else notice that the young teen boy isn't ready to babysit? While I'm not condoning parentification by any means, I really do think that OP was more than likely looking after her siblings long before his age. It's time Mom and Dad got off their lazy butts, to use their words, and start looking after the womb crawlers they produced. I, 27 female, have chosen to walk down the aisle alone on my wedding day. The decision was made for 2 reasons. My dad died when I was 7, and he would be my number 1 choice if he were alive, but he's not. Also, my mom has made it perfectly clear that she would find it disrespectful to my stepdad if she walked me down the aisle, so she wouldn't do it. Given that both my parents are out, and I don't want to ask my paternal grandparents to do too much, my grandma and I are already sharing a special dance. Walking alone is what I feel is the most comfortable thing. I could ask my stepdad, and even when I contemplated my decision, I knew he'd want to do it. But it would make me sad to have him walk me instead of my dad, if I'm honest. My stepdad is a good man, and he's tried his very best to be a dad to me. But I didn't want a dad when I lost mine. I wanted my dad. Nobody else was ever going to be able to fill that role in my heart. I asked my mom and stepdad if they'd like to do a joint toast or 2 separate ones, and whether they'd like to walk down the aisle or dance to specific songs. While discussing this, my stepdad asked who I'd be walking with, and I told him I was just walking alone. He offered to do it, and I said it was a lovely offer, but I'd walk alone. He pressed me on why, and I said I felt like it was the best option. He said it would mean the world to him if he could do it, if he could just once feel like he's a real dad and not just second place to my dad. I told him I understood, but it wasn't an option on the table. He said he was already being shamed by having to watch me dance with my grandpa when it should be a father-daughter dance. But to have everyone watch me walk alone when they know I have a stepdad will send a very big message. Edit. I know people will ask about the details of our relationship, etc. I met my stepdad when I was 9. He married my mom when I was 10. He offered to adopt me and give me his last name, and I turned him down 5 times in the 8 years I lived with him. He was married before my mom and lost his wife and unborn baby in an accident. He was also made sterile by the same accident. He always longed to be a dad. We got along well, but our relationship was always more to him than to me. Where he sees a daughter and wants a daughter, I see a good man and someone who's a great spouse to my mom and is good to me, but does not fill the father role he wanted emotionally for me. Physically, he did, but emotionally, I never felt like he was my dad, and everyone in our lives is aware that I feel as though I have one dad, and my stepdad is my stepdad. My mom and stepdad are not paying or contributing to the wedding in any way. My fiance and I have savings, and we're putting those into the wedding, though our wedding will be smallish, since we want to prioritize other things. My mom and stepdad say I'm rude and heartless for turning down the offer. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. The only rude ones are your mom and stepdad. Where I can definitely sympathize with him, he's making your wedding about himself. He may be a good man, but he's selfish in this case. Stand your ground. It's your wedding. Your dad must have been amazing, and I'm sure he'll want you to be happy on that day and every other day. Being a step-parent is truly a thankless job. You are the idiot, and I really feel for your stepdad. You are so lucky to have a man who wants to love and support you in a fatherly role. Be grateful. To shun the man who stepped up and was actually there for someone who couldn't be is insanely insensitive. If you don't care about him, then sure, don't include your stepdad. But if you do care for him, include him. Stop looking at a reminder of what you don't have and look at a beautiful example of what you do have. Yes, I feel awful for this man too. He seems to have loved and provided for OP since she was 10. And of course, OP lost her dad when she was 7 and has her stepdad since 10. She's 27 now. So she only has rosy memories of her dad and hasn't ever been able to accept her stepdad as a father figure, no matter what he did. I feel bad for him. Some step-parents do everything they can for years and years, and still get tossed in the trash. And it sucks. She really is so lucky. Some people have terrible bio dads and also terrible stepdads. This story actually hit a nerve with me. She has no idea how lucky she is.